We all go? Morena everyone, good morning. Welcome to the Infrastructure and Transport Committee 2nd of May 2024. Right, we're going to open the meeting firstly with a karakia, and I'm going to ask Mangai Norm to do that for us.
He honore, he krori, he mangarongo ki te matua te whenua, he whakaaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. E pā tēnei mātou te tukuna te whakamoimiti ki a koe, mauri o mai o manaketanga, hei araki, hei tia ki tō tātane whiri kororo I tēnei ata. Koe kirati hoku tō mātou ariki. Āmene. Madam Chair, if I can just translate that so that everyone understands what I said, and I didn't go wee wawa with my kororo. I just acknowledge our Heavenly Father, and may He guide our decision making today in tēnei in our meeting this morning. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora I tēnei wā. Me mihi ka tika ki ngā mate huhu o te wā, ko whaia pare hopa, ko taki tūna, ko wehi ki tua o paurau, moi mai rā, ka raro te korai o te atua. At this time also, Madam Chair, Council, we acknowledge the passing of two great leaders of Ngāti Warere, Pare Hopa, who was the first Māori PhD qualified university graduate from the University of Waikato, and the lead Taki Tuna, who was a champion leader for mana whenua and all auspices of the work that kaumātua do within our rohe. So acknowledgements to our two leaders there. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora. Thank you, Norm. All right, we have apologies, full apology from Councillor Thompson on council business, Mayor Southgate.
Oh, sorry, Chair. I'm now able to join online.
And you have a small elected member in your lap, I see.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yeah. So future-proof hearings finished. We managed to finish in one day instead of two.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so you're with us on Zoom today. Great.
With you on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. And Mayor Paula Southgate, apologies. Councillor Naidu Rolfe. And we have partial apologies from Councillor Huaki and early departure from Councillor Tawariki and Councillor Donovan, and also late for Councillor Donovan. Are there any further apologies? Here he is. There are none. All right. Thank you. Moved and seconded by Councillor Hutt. Thank you. All those in favour? There are none against. That's carried. Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda. Committee members, you've got the agenda, the run sheet in front of you. There are no changes, so I'll move that the agenda be received. Seconded by Councillor Van Osten. All those in favour say aye. There are none against. That's carried. Any declarations of interest? Councillor Hutt.
I just wanted to note that GoEco had made a submission on the waste bins.
Great.
But I was not involved in GoEco's submission, and other organisations made very similar comments, so I don't feel conflicted.
Great, thank you for that. Right, we're moving now into the public forum. So I would like to invite Mr. Bevan Thomas, who is speaking on item 7, our new decision-making framework for transport. Good morning, Bevan, how are you? Good.
Morning, Deputy Mayor. And the Assembly. Okay, tēnā koutou katoa. Okay. My name is Bevan Thomas. I'm one of the school leaders at Fraser High School. And the item I'd like to speak to is the new pedestrian crossing going in on Ellicott Road. Okay. Just a little bit of background. The 7th of March last year, we made a submission to this committee for a long overdue pedestrian crossing. And this was, it's vital for pedestrian safety, our students of the local primary schools and our community, being as that Ellicott Road is an extremely busy and at times dangerous road to cross. So plans for a signalled road safety platform pedestrian crossing were released to the public after being approved by this committee. And I'm given to understand that any concerns were minimal at the time, and the public was consulted. It's just recently come to our attention that the plans have been changed. I understand there's a new process involved with raised safety platforms. So our concern is that without that raised safety platform, the danger is still present for some of our driving behaviours on that road. We have a lot of speeding, dangerous manoeuvres, passing manoeuvres, as well as disregard for the road markings on that road. So we were wondering what the process was and the rationale behind the process to look at the raised safety platforms and see whether or not they were necessary. We believe they are. We have a number of topographical issues on that road as well. For example, the nature of the dip in the road, there's a sharp bend which creates a blind corner. Morning sun and afternoon sun reduces driver visibility as well. And we believe that the only credible mechanism to help to control some of those driving behaviours would be a raised safety platform, which has the effect of slowing the traffic down to a safe speed whereby drivers can see and identify hazards. A lot of these behaviours I see on a daily basis. I perform gate duty at the end of the day, and I have done in the mornings as well. And I've seen a number of near misses where our students and other members of the community have very narrowly avoided being hit by vehicles. The speeds they're going, it's very likely to be either serious injury or a fatality is bound to happen at some point. I'm also given to understand that the plans for the raised safety platform haven't been cancelled, they're just on hold at the moment. Our concern is for a later installation that would incur an extra cost, and also that may be a factor in deciding whether or not a later installation goes ahead. So we were wondering if that could be reinstated into the current plans. And the bottom line basically being that we don't believe that traffic signals alone is an effective mechanism to control that traffic. Okay, and I'll leave the matter for your consideration.
Great, thank you, Bevan. I'll allow a question from Councillor Wilson, but we're not here to design this stuff today. This was just an easy opportunity for Bevan to come.
Thanks for coming along.
Councillor Wilson.
You asserted, in your opinion, that a controlled crossing, which will be done, isn't suffice, that you need the raised platform components, and you articulated the dip in the road and the sun analysis. Wouldn't those same aspects, in light of the fact you're going to have traffic lights, are you saying that you feel people won't see the traffic lights, but they'll see a raised platform?
It's not exactly that, Councillor. Thanks, that's a great point that you're bringing up. It's not so much the visibility, but it is the education around the new crossing going in. One point that I failed to mention at the time was that with any new crossing, there is a period of learning for new drivers to see the new infrastructure going in. We feel that there may be some confusion around a later installation of a raised platform and further resistance to the idea if we went later.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Bevan. Very clear submission. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
All right, I just also want to point out to the committee that we have council's graduates over in the far corner over there, and they are from Waters, Infrastructure and Governance, and they are here to watch us in action. So I expect you all to be on your very best behaviour. As you always are.
And you, of course.
No, not me. I'm in charge. Do as I say, not as I do, Councillor Wilson. All right, so that's the last speaker of our public forum. We do have a couple of written submissions from Phil Evans and Melissa Smith, also on the decision-making framework when we get to that as well, but they are in your diligent pack. Okay, so now let's move on to the confirmation of the item 5 of the minutes of 5th of March Infrastructure and Transport Committee. I'll confirm that they are a true and accurate record and move. Councillor Casey Cox is second. Anything arising, Mangai Hill? Or was that a hand for second? Okay, your paper, scissors, rock over there. All right. All those in favour? There are none opposed. That's carried. Right, committee members, item 6, the National and Regional Transport Policy. And we have, are you in the hot seat? No, Chris. Chris Allen's in the hot seat.
Morena. Probably just take the report as read. It's an attempt just to put the cascading emerging transport policy in one document and providing a copy of the submission that we made to the policy at the top of the tree, which is the GPS on land transport. So I'm just happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? There are none?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I thought I could see you frowning, Councillor Thompson, so I knew you were working up to a question. Go ahead.
You have a very good sixth sense. Chris, just one question with the State Highway Improvement Program. What does this potentially mean? Well, what does this likely mean for the work we had planned to do for improvements outside of the hospital, for the likes of the Comet, and also the state highway revocation that was originally planned over in the Hillcrest area?
Yep, so if I start with the state highway revocation, so that's locked and loaded in our LTP, fully funded by New Zealand Transport Agency at just over $11 million, I think. So that agreement has been signed, and so that's secured that project.
Okay.
I think we're still in a bit of a waiting space in what the actual SHIP or the State Highway Improvement Project means. They do, from memory, have an allocation in there for sort of minor transport improvements, but what will be included in that, we're still waiting to see, and I don't think New Zealand Transport Agency fully know as well at the moment. So, so
okay,
remembering
so the only thing we have certainty on then at this case is that revocation will be fully funded.
Correct. That's a commitment now, and that's a signed contract that we have with Waka Kotahi. So that funding is secure, and we're in the process of implementing that now. So that for people who don't understand, who may be listening, that is after they built the expressway, the section of State Highway 26 that goes to Morrinsville was revoked from the expressway back into the Burger King roundabout. So it revokes the state highway status. It becomes under our control to look after and maintain. Prior to us looking after and maintaining, they've provided us some funding to improve it and upgrade it, including an intersection improvement at Martangi Silverdale intersection in the dip. So that's fully funded, and we're working on that now, and that'll flow through reports to council in terms of macro scope and what we're doing over the next year or two.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, Chris, on page 60, on my agenda, where it's talking about number 2, the West Hamilton Review and project development, which is a business case work identified in the Southern Links Form and Function Review. It talks about, at item C, it says the project is signalled as being a joint business case with Hamilton City Council, although Council has not allocated specific funding to participate. Are we going to allocate specific funding in the LTP? Has that been picked up, or?
It's sort of a little bit new information to us as they put the State Highway Improvement Program out. So it's probably something we need to think about leading into our LTP. So as you know, our LTP is fairly tight.
Yeah, indeed.
The alternative is to keep talking to NZTA about our share of zero.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, I'll leave that in your capable hands. Thank you.
All right, that looks like that's all the questions. I'll move because I want to say a few words. Seconded by councillor, I don't know your name, sir, because you haven't got your name tag. Seconded by councillor Donovan. Look, I just wanted to say, councillor McIndoe and I met very quickly with staff to help form the staff submission, and it had to be a staff submission because there wasn't time to canvass elected members, testing the pulse on this. So we did take a very high level approach to it. But look, it's an interesting journey. It's a vastly different government policy statement than the previous one. There are some good things in there and some things that I'm concerned about. In particular, the new streams of revenue. I know we'll all be interested in that. They call it time of use charging, but we know it as congestion charging. I think that makes sense to have toll roads, I think particularly on the roads of national significance, and we know that Southern Links will be one of those in the future. I'm also a really big supporter of user pays where it makes sense, so I have no problem with that. I do have some concerns around the sole focus of this GPS being one that's moved to an enforcement issue. I support enforcement, but I'm not sure that the appropriate police resources have gone into that. So, look, this is just sort of the start. We've got to wait for, I guess, the Minister to review the submissions and the feedback and whether there are any tweaks, but this is the start of the process. So we wait with bated breath. Thank you. Councillor Donovan, a seconder, did you want to say anything?
No, I would cut and paste exactly what you've said.
Okay,
did
great.
Echo
Thank
your
you.
comments. Thank you. It was well said and it's perfect, on point. Thank you.
Councillor Hutt.
Thank you. Just very, very briefly, just reading through our submission, I just wanted to thank staff for the inclusion of points around maintaining a focus on supporting public transport for, you know, our metro spatial area, and also for encouraging investment in strategic walking and cycling networks. I don't think our current government needs any support with their agenda for roads, so I'm grateful for our staff to remind them that there are other modes as well, so appreciate that.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, and well done with the submission. I don't agree with probably 2% of it, but I agree with the rest, so I think that's probably, everyone probably feels that way. So well done. It's probably no surprise that I do kind of like the, from a political point of view, the thrust of this new approach from the government. And I'm excited about potential for Southern Links and Cambridge-Paieri highways, roads of national significance. And I think in terms of maintenance of state highways in our region, which I feel are really, frankly, quite embarrassing in places at the moment, I think there'll be a lot of people who will be heartened by the approach that this government plans to take in regards to that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, staff, and thank you, Chair Angela and Councillor Tim, for your work on the submissions. I think when we do, I assume that we haven't done our verbal submissions yet, and when we do, I think it's important to emphasise that the form and function of Southern Links needs to be informed by the work that's happening right now, because it's been very clear through the work happening through Future Proof and the recent submissions from emerging areas like SR1 and things, that a grade separated 4-lane highway is not necessarily what we need in order to support growth and other outcomes that we're looking for with Southern Links. So I think highlighting that is really important. I think I agree with the Chair's comments that congestion charging, as long as that is not just an Auckland thing but will apply to other cities too, is a positive, but extremely concerned about the pullback on funding for other parts of our transport system. It's unclear whether there'll be enough funding for the regional council to put on any to do any improvements to frequency for buses. It's, you know, we're sitting with a huge amount of uncertainty around what we've put on our LTP, and I think this whole thing just again highlights how the whole system for funding is really compromises our ability to make local decisions, and I'd really like to see us advocate strongly for a bulk funding model so that we're not in these positions where we put in a hope of work into projects, we do our prioritisation, and then we have to turn around and when we don't get the funding that we're looking for and reprioritise it all over again.
Councillor Thompson, did you hear the ding?
No, I didn't,
Okay.
but I thought I was
Ding.
probably that time. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I read the GPS with a mixture of horror and excitement, and I guess as such they managed to alienate most people and have pleased some. I'm particularly supportive of the GPS's approach to national roads of significance, and I share a different view from my good friend Councillor Sarah in regards to Southern Links. I feel that a 4-lane highway is absolutely appropriate, and that will help us speed up the growth in that area. But strangely enough, I actually support some of her concerns in regards to public transport. I've always felt that it shouldn't be one or the other. It should be a combination of both. And I'm horrified that we may find ourselves in a position where, for example, Tahuia in year 2 out of a 5-year trial, that they're thinking of terminating something that's actually nearly achieving, if not achieving, its projections, driven by an ideology. And so my fear, and it doesn't matter either end of the spectrum, you know, you could argue when Labour was in, it was all about cycleways and public transport and there was nothing for roads, and then we swing the other way and it's all about roads. When this country grows up, it's going to realise that the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle, and it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I just can't wait for us to grow up and see that.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? There are none. All right, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, show of hands. There are none opposed. That's carried. Thank you. Committee, before we get to item 7, the decision-making framework, I just want to interrupt the meeting for a moment. I want to thank Councillor Van Osten for, because this is her first meeting, not as Deputy Chair, so I want, and something that was supposed to arrive didn't quite arrive on time. So I just want to thank you, Councillor, for being Deputy Chair to meet and this committee and serving us so well. You're a wonderful Deputy Chair, even though you had your own huge portfolio of managing finances as well, and you were always there in support of me. So I have a little thing for you that snuck in and you weren't watching, so it was very secretive. Oh, just to say thank you. For you? These are for me? No. Thank you. Oh, don't give me your
No, that's what I really did. Look, no speeches from me.
No woman is allergic to flowers.
Thank you, Chair Angela and committee. Just because I'm not the deputy any longer doesn't mean that I don't take a keen interest in this portfolio. And by stepping aside to make space for our newest councillor, Tim, I do so without losing sight of the really important work that happens in this committee. Kia ora tātou.
Thank you.
I just want to congratulate you and your leadership of organising the flowers. I wonder if other chairs could show the same leadership, and I'm just wondering if mine are in the mail somewhere.
I think yours got lost in the mail, Councillor Wilson, but I did bring in baking just for you. You'll have to share it.
I was referring to my good friend who's joining us digitally today.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
Oh, all right. we'll see.
Yeah, I'm
I
stuck
think
in-
they are stuck in
Yeah,
traffic.
it's all right.
All right. These things always interrupt us, don't they? Anybody would think we actually enjoy each other's company. That is not true. It's a terrible rumour. Right, item 7, our project decision-making framework. Tanya's going to come up and Gordon is going to come up in the hot seat. Look, I just want to make a few opening comments. First of all, obviously, thank you, Tanya. This turnaround was from my chair's report at the March meeting to today with a new process. I think your political awareness to the concerns that we've raised is extremely sharp, so I thank you for that. And with that, hand over to you.
Morena tātou, ko Tania Herman, toku ingoa, and Gordon Naidu, who's our Unit Director of Transportation. We'd just like to thank you for the input and feedback that you've all had collectively over the last 2 workshops, and which has got us to the point of this decision-making framework. And other than that, I will take the report as read and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Let's go to questions. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thank you for a good report. We had a submission in the public forum earlier on today regarding raised platforms, and it's my understanding that this new approach and framework, in that particular case, it wouldn't then require a raised platform. Have I understood that correctly?
So a project that may have a raised safety platform included as one of the options would be brought to the councillors to consider through a briefing with a series of options. And each of those options would have safety assessments, and then we would bring those options, then the risk analysis and the safety data for future decision making. So it's not an absolute no, it's part of the decision making and the options and the information we provide in that for you.
Excellent. And so that particular issue will come back to council when?
Correct. Gordon, do you know that?
Councillor Yin, morning. I think it'll come through at the next, we decided that we'll bring those projects in the next, I think it's around September. We'll bring that across here, yeah, if I'm not mistaken. But I'll, if I'm incorrect, I'll actually let you know, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If I may add to that, the reason for the September is we will have hopefully visibility over the Wakakatei subsidy allocations, and we'll have the council decisions on LTP funding decisions. So they're the important considerations before we get to project decision making.
So nothing's happening before that?
Correct.
Okay.
Page 83 on mine anyway, number 11 is a grid which has got green, amber and red, and in the green you go across to project description. So where it says installing or renewing public transport infrastructure, which infrastructure are we talking about there?
So those would be replacements of existing, say, bus painting, road marking, bus shelters, bus signage, just the basic, so nothing new.
No, so not in-lane bus stops?
No, it's the renewals of current infrastructure.
Thank you. Jolly good. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hutt.
Thank you. Just a few sort of clarifying questions because I want to make sure that I've got this right. Just looking through the process, it looks like there's possibly no key stakeholder engagement until step 5. This is page 83.13 through to the next page. It states projects that are assessed as amber or red will go through the process below, and then step 5 indicates full communication and engagement plan developed. So there's no pre-engagement with stakeholders?
So it would depend on the size of the project, but in general, we would want to make sure we're presenting the series of options to our stakeholders that have been, I guess, seen as acceptable or comfortable for council to go forwards with. We come up with, sometimes we could come up with a dozen options, and we need to scale those back down. So we want to go out and be able to engage at the right times, at the right levels, which we've indicated earlier in the report. So some of those bigger projects may have earlier consultation with our key stakeholders. Some of them might be once we've finished those optioneerings.
I was just had a possible concern that, you know, you might bring us like 3 options and we go out to, say, a school, and the school says, actually, we didn't want any of those, you know.
A lot of the times when we do our options, we're already talking to that particular community, so that would be included in that options.
And does that also flow on for like land acquisition? Like if we needed to acquire land for, say, an intersection upgrade, we would make sure that I'm just trying to really like sense check.
Yeah, absolutely. There's probably, which isn't specific in that diagram, but there's a whole lot of work that would have to be done up at the front end, including LTP decisions about future-proofing the city, about which type of land acquisitions we might want.
Cool. There was also a comment around independent safe system assessments. When you say independent, is that the independent traffic engineers who work at council but aren't in the transport, or are they a contractor to council?
They're a contractor to council.
Okay.
There will be some smaller projects that will have some internal safety audits, but those are the very small scale. But the larger ones and the red and amber projects would be an independent.
Are we already getting independent assessments for these anyway?
I'll be happy to answer that, Councillor Hutch. Yes, we do. So these independent safety auditors are approved by Wakakotai, and there's a range of them in Hamilton that we use regularly to actually have a look at the independent assessments.
Okay, so this isn't, this process wouldn't involve us employing more contractors to do more independent assessments. This sort of aligns with what we're already doing?
Yes, exactly what we're doing, yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome, that was it.
Great, thank you. All right, that looks to be all the questions. I'm going to move this one, seconded by Councillor McIndoe. Look, thanks everyone. When we started this process, I kind of wondered if it would be as fraught as mining for gold, but in the end it was much easier than I anticipated, and I think that's because the problem was very, very clearly understood, not just by us as the elected wing and responsible to the residents of the city, but also to the staff. So I want to again thank the staff for the quick turnaround here, for a very clear process that I note in 2 submissions has been supported by Bike Waikato and Bike Action Hamilton, and I hope that everyone has read their submissions, because that gives me some comfort. I think the framework will absolutely improve the way that we plan, the way that we assess, and the way that we implement our transport projects, because I think over time it's the implementation that has been the most difficult part, as well as the engagement. So I'm absolutely sure that this will give the community the confidence that they have been asking from us. I think the traffic light system will absolutely be a great way to triage things, and which will also enable it for us to not get in the way of repainting lines on roads and things like that, because we don't want the city to come to a grinding halt. So I guess this work started back in November with the Mayor's office, when the Mayor called me in and we had a chat about the concerns that were being raised. So in actual fact, in local government, this is quite a quick turnaround. I personally always believe if something's not working, you look at the process first. We looked at the process. We found that it was slightly wanting. We've come up with an improvement, so we move forward from here. Thank you. Councillor McIndoe as the seconder.
Deputy Chair, Deputy Mayor, Chair Angela, you have summarised that position very well, and I echo the comments you've just made. Given that there's clearly a lot of public concern in our community over the way that decisions have been made and the effects of some of those decisions in recent times, it is important that we have a more nuanced system, one that is openly transparent. I too want to acknowledge Tanya, Andrew and all the team for the work that they've done. Probably no system will ever be perfect, but this I think provides a very clear way of assessing the merits of every individual project, and I thank those who have worked to achieve that.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair and Deputy Mayor.
Just Chair.
I was going to say Chair, but then I thought, oh well, I better be more respectful, and then I got that out wrong. Look, I'm delighted. I'm delighted that we have finally adjusted a process, and I think we'll get better results. And I think from when it was ultimately decided that something needed to be done, we've done it quite quickly. I have to acknowledge that I think we've been slow in recognising what the problem was. And I'm reminded that we've had some disasters in the last 4 years in terms of our roading, our communications. I look at Ward Street. I look at some of the examples where we had done those things poorly. I look at the number of raised platforms that just suddenly went wild, and that had happened over a number of years. I'm mindful of suddenly the in-lane bus stops, and it was only after the public started to react 3 years later, as we turned along, did we suddenly realise, oh my gosh, it's not just the odd person complaining, it's en masse. And I think that's a great lesson to us all, that just because we've done it in a certain way in the past doesn't mean that it's right, that we've got to be quicker to react when the community are unhappy. That people being unhappy isn't necessarily easy to dismiss. We just can't say, oh, that, you know, they're driven by an ideology. They hate public transport. They just want, you know, they're trying to take our cars away. We have to read through that noise and realise that, in fact, some of them had a legitimate concern. And so I'm less enamoured of congratulating ourselves of now fixing a problem that's been around for 3 or 4 years and we should have fixed it earlier. But I'm glad we have.
Councillor Pike.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to start by thanking staff for their work on this, and also for our members on collaborating on it as well. I'll keep this short, but I think we're all aware of how recent transport projects have sparked a lot of community debate, many after the projects have been installed, and I think this has just highlighted that we have a strong need to reflect on our processes, and also the need to work with our community to get better outcomes for all. So I'm really pleased to see in this structure a much stronger emphasis on community engagement and the ability to feed back on design options, because I think that's crucial in being able to get that balance right. So I look forward to seeing some much needed improvement in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bidder.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Following on from previous people's mistakes. Deputy Mayor, firstly, I think this is a good outcome. Secondly, I encourage any councillor who hasn't already taken up the offer from the fire department in Chartwell to go for a ride in the fire trucks. It is rough. Thirdly, the Wairere Drive raised platform for Pack and Save wouldn't make it through this process. I think this needs reconsideration through an amendment to the resource consent, which I will be encouraging Pack and Save to do.
Thank you. Right, I don't feel the need for a right of reply, so we will put that to the vote. All those in favour, show of hands. Do we still have Councillor Thompson online? Yes.
Have we actually had Councillor Mayl?
She has put in partial apologies, so governance will keep an eye on that. I don't know. All right, that's been passed, that's been carried, thank you. Right, next item 8, the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan. This is the final step in this process of deliberation and adoption. Tanya, thank you, and Nicole.
I'd just like to introduce Nicole Bradbury, who's our Resource Recovery Strategic Manager. This is the final step in our process. It has been a 2-year process of reviewing the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan, and it is a requirement under the Waste Management and Waste Management Act that we have a plan, because it enables us to receive a significant amount of funding from the Ministry for Environment. We'll just take the report as read and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Second, are there any questions? Pretty standard BAU for us. No? All right, let's show of hands. All those in favour? There are none opposed. That's carried. Thank you.
Tēnā koe, Chair Councillor O'Leary. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Ray Simpson tuko ingoa. I'm a planner for Three Waters Unit, and I bring here today the determination report for the water supply bylaw. It's a really important bylaw. It helps us to protect public safety, health and safety, also protect our infrastructure really importantly, cost recovery as well, and also very importantly, helps us to promote water conservation and water efficiency. This bylaw is 10 years old, and we really needed to review it. We decided, because it was a pretty rock solid bylaw, to be honest, so we put forward some minor changes. We've done a lot of engagement on this bylaw. We had 12 submissions, mostly in support of the changes that we wanted to make. We have actually still worked on some of the submission points that have come through, and so we've made some amendments to the bylaw on the basis of those submission points. Any further questions?
Are there any questions? It's pretty standard. No, there are no questions. Great. All right, so I'll move that recommendation on page 196, seconded by the Deputy Chair, Councillor McIndoe. I don't need to debate on this. I think it's all been said. No debate. All those in favour, please raise your hands. There are none against. That's carried. Thank you. Okay, item 10. Now, as per my email and standard practice, there's a lot of bits and pieces for information here, and because the agendas are public, that airs it out for members of the public to know what sort of updates the General Manager has given us. With the except, so I received no emails from anyone wanting to question any of the detail other than the two that's there. Councillor Taylor? The two under the recommendations, so the Puketi Wastewater Treatment Plant emergency work and the Bryce Street Resilience Works are up for questions.
Okay, yeah, we verbally discussed it.
Yes.
So you're happy with that?
But yes, you can, absolutely. So, Tanya, we don't need to present the report, it's there. So, Councillor Taylor, questions on that?
Thank you, Chair. Look, I mentioned it to the Chair yesterday because I wanted to run it. I was worried that it was a stupid question, and I thought I'd try and run it by her first before I did it in front of everybody here. In regard to the Bryce Street work by the railway there, I just have a question there in terms of, Tanya, shall I put it to you? Might as well. And I just caution you that it is reasonably stupid, the question. But my question is, Does this stretch of Bryce Street from Seddon Road through to Tristram, isn't it? Does it actually need to remain a road? And if it didn't remain a road, would it actually cost us as much to fix? Because, I mean, to me, I question whether it's redundant. When it was closed, I can't say anyone particularly missed it. And I'm just wondering if it actually needs to be in our network, and if we weren't treating it as a road and catering for the weight allowance that, of vehicles using it, would we be better off, and would it save us any money? There, I've said it.
To you, Madam Chair. Councillor, that's a really good question. and I need to actually go and do some work around that. And I'll get back to you. You make an absolutely great point, because when it was closed, there was no feedback received from the public. So I will go back and actually do some homework and get back to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's a relief.
See? And the other thing that Councillor Taylor and I discussed yesterday was wondering, and our sports ambassador, Councillor Donovan, might know, in terms of there was a proposal from Northern Districts. Is there any update on that? Do you know, Councillor Donovan? Because it sort of fell away, didn't it?
So rhetoric out there is that, there is still plans in place to do some significant development in that area around Seddon Park.
Because included in their proposal was to close that road and return it to some green space and
I would just like to
public
say
realm.
that I do use that road. So
Well, I use it too, but I use it too.
To be fair, I did skateboard down it last time when it was closed.
So I wonder if we can just have that as an action on the minutes to report back either to a briefing, it probably is the first, and then maybe an update on what Northern Districts are doing as well. Would be great. Good question.
Because the resolution talks about
Okay, so let's ask that question. What would we need? Would we need to?
I'll make an amendment.
Resilience works. It's not urgent, is it? No. Okay, so let's add something in there to pause that work for now.
Would it
What do
be
you want to do,
comfortable for
Councillor?
something along the lines of approving subject to investigations being undertaken to determine whether the road could be closed? And the...
Okay, wait on.
I was just trying to also gather the Northern Districts part into it as well. Okay, cool.
Just implicit, that we just ask that question, and it doesn't need to be a big investigation.
Yeah.
But
No, that's okay. So is there something we need to be concerned about? Do you need some time? We can break for morning tea. Let's break for morning tea.
Could we break for morning tea? The issue
No,
is that we may
need to get that
we
one
may
right.
have already started some works getting prepped for it.
Okay.
And I just make the note too that if we were to close it, it would cost a heck of a lot more money to close it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, let's just
I think
get
it's still a good
information.
interim option to do it, but
We'll get the information. Let's have morning tea because somebody bought some baking. We will be done like by 11:30 today though. So hold that question, Councillor Hutt. Let's come back at 2:25. So, we have an update and it's going to be a staff note, I believe, has been worked out between, yes, that Councillor Taylor's happy with that. Can we just hear or just what the note is? Because Councillor Wilson, you said there might be an amendment, but probably not now if we're, where's the note? There we go, up there. Investigation of future vice reverend. Seddon Road to Tristram Street.
Oh, sorry, I'm just showing this. Oh, the note at the top.
The note
Yeah,
at the
sorry,
top.
I'm just
Yeah.
showing the, it's updated to a staff action,
Yeah.
this one here.
And that's because the work has started and would cost a lot more to close the road, is that correct? Yeah. I think that was the advice, Chris. Is that,
Madam Chair, can I ask
Yeah.
a question just procedurally on that?
yes.
How can work have started on a project that hadn't been funded or funds allocated? Because here you have a motion.
Okay, so question.
So that's a really
without-
clear
yeah.
question.
Chris?
Yeah, so I'll try and answer that one. So this is part of one of our programs of work that's funded through low cost, low risk. So we haven't physically started works on site. We're doing the design and prepping. So it was time to come to this council and say to use those programs. This was a good opportunity because it's a resilience project for us. Because it's resilience, NZTA are going to half fund it within the existing budgets we've got. So it was time to come to the committee to tell them we've been working on putting this together. If council wanted to, we could. It's existing annual plan budgets for the local road program, which is
current year's
more
program.
for resilience and this type of thing.
Current year's program, Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I don't know if I've got an actual answer to my question. If you're saying that this is already funds available, that you've started to incur costs in design, because that's what the evidence you've given us, what is then C required to do? If you've already got this funds, you've already got permission to do it, you've already spent some money on design, what is C achieving?
I guess it's that transparency and visibility to this committee. That work is about to start. The reasons why we're doing it.
Okay.
Deputy
Mayor, I don't know. I'm getting confusing comments from the General Manager. I've heard in their last statement, we're preparing to do some work. I've heard we've already started to incur some costs in design. What is it? Have we spent any money on this in any shape or form or not? It's a yes/no, Deputy Mayor, I think.
Yep.
Yes, we would have incurred costs in getting ready to construct.
Thank you.
Great.
So, Deputy Mayor, when the General Manager says he's bringing it to us for transparency for us to approve, he's asking us to do that retrospectively. Is that correct? That we are being asked retrospectively to approve quantum already spent?
Yeah, why are we approving something that's already budgeted and on the list?
And is already occurring.
And is already occurring.
It's the resolution's not approving, it's noting.
It says
that we're-
approves the inclusion, Chris.
I'm looking at a different version, sorry.
See, on page 270 says approves the inclusion
Yep,
of
sorry, I was
Rye
looking
Street
at
resilience
a
work.
different,
So we need a really clear answer.
So the status is that we have incurred costs to get this ready to go. We haven't started the construction of it, and we are asking for approval to proceed to construction of it in the next 2 months as part of the funded low cost, low risk local road program.
Is it a project already on the current year's low cost, low risk program?
No.
because I would read that it isn't. That's why you're asking us to include it. How can we get the right answers for this here?
Yeah, I'd have to, I don't know the exact answer to that.
Okay,
I'd
so
have to
I know
defer
that this work is not urgent, so I think we should defer this motion. We can take it to the next finance meeting or council, because I share Councillor Walsh's concerns and I can see other members nodding to me. We need to be clear about what we're doing here and why we're doing it. So, yep. All right, so we're going to take that off. So who's moved this? Councillor Taylor, do you? Yes, and I'll second. So we're going to be moving with the minute note and receives the report, and B, which is retrospective, and that was the to Director Point McConnell, and that was done for the emergency work required at the wastewater treatment plant, and that was done under delegation under the Local Government Act, where myself and someone else, can't remember, signed, and then it comes, because it was emergency work, and then comes to the committee for retrospective. It was you, Councillor, that's as Chair of Finance. So, all right, and I will pick up after with the General Manager also around C. So we're taking C off. And Councillor Thompson has a question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Chris, could in terms of the Bryce Street resilience works, if this is delayed to a future committee, we're very close to the end of the financial year, so I'd like to understand the implications of that.
So the implications is that we'll miss the opportunity and we won't be able to do it. It'll have to become a candidate for next year's low-cost, low-risk programs. So if
Heard it's not urgent, right?
probably not urgent, but we think it's a really good resilience project with the instability we've got in that area.
And how soon would it become urgent potentially become urgent in terms of that resilience work?
I think that's a hard question to answer. Like the road has been slipping and slowly moving for a few years now, and it'll probably continue to do that. Yeah, it's a hard question to answer. It's one of those things that could accelerate with rain and go. We just don't know. We do a lot of work to try and control the drainage and fill the cracks, etc. But yeah, I just can't answer that question. It's a risk that sits there. It's one of the few instability risks we have in the city.
Council meeting on the 30th that it could go to, governance have just advised me with some clearer information.
Okay. Chair, are you happy to then refer it to that meeting instead of taking it up fully? Otherwise, I'll move an amendment.
That, yeah. So that the item be referred to the 30th of May council meeting. Yep, great.
Okay, does that, and just confirming again, does that provide enough time then to complete the project?
Yes, just.
Just, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Casey Cox?
Yeah, just wondering if, because there's a slight delay, if we can get more information on Councillor Taylor's question around the closing off the road. Is that possible? And I guess in respect of that, you mentioned that there will be ongoing issues potentially with that area given the slipping or whatever, Chris? And I just wonder, so that's ongoing costs, is it? Well, ongoing slipping means ongoing costs potentially, or?
Yeah, probably minimal. It's still moving, but very slowly, so minimal sort of costs.
Okay, it'd just be good to be able to compare the two, I guess, because...
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can...
Yeah, so we're listening to all those questions, we'll try and wrap it all up in terms of the potential future of it as well.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, so we've made some slight adjustments to the motion and we'll get that up on the board. at the moment. Councillor Thompson, we're looking at your lovely face. Right, there we go. So notes the approval to directly appoint and refers the decision concerning Bryce Street Resilience Works to 30 May council meeting with the minute note to accompany that as well. You happy with that? Yeah, great. All right, so Councillor Taylor, as the mover, would you like to speak to the item?
Yeah, look, it's developed since I mentioned it. Look, I'm happy enough with the outcome, I think. I think I've sort of inadvertently started something bigger here and caused some problems, and normally I do that sort of thing on purpose. So it's so it's a different one for me. But I guess I have genuinely raised it because I'm wondering if it needs to be part of our roading network anymore, and also I'm conscious that it's part of the Greenbelt area really, and there may be other uses for it. So I think this outcome, there's a question in my mind about spending the money, as convenient as it may seem at this stage, when we're not totally sure about the long-term solution for that stretch of road. So, but given the fact that it will come back to a meeting within that on the 30th, hopefully, we'll get a good outcome. So thank you for that.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'm pleased, I'm delighted that my good friend Councillor Jeff raised this issue because it was a really good question. And I don't think as an organisation we need to hesitate to say, hey, let's just revisit whether or not this road's actually necessary. Let's just have a look, have a chat. So I'm delighted that that has occurred. On the other side, I'm disappointed. And I'm disappointed because we are often in such a race to get 50% subsidy that we've just got to push things through. 50% subsidy of something we don't need, potentially, isn't any help at all. And so a momentary break to verify that is helpful. And the other area I'm disappointed with, and I have to say over 26 years of coming in and out of this chamber, I'm getting unsettled at how often I'm seeing things that say we have or we haven't, we have partially funded, we haven't, and we're reallocating funds. I'm concerned about C and how that has transpired here today, that, we have spent money, but we're then being asked to actually approve the funding. And of course, we get to approve it before you spend the money. And so I haven't, it's come a watershed moment. I'm beginning to get upset and lose a little bit of faith about some of our processes, and that worries me.
Councillor, any further speakers? There are none. Councillor Taylor, right of reply?
Sorry, Chair, I was slow to put my hand up.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, firstly, thanks, Councillor Jeff. I think that was a good question to ask. It's not often that you're advocating for closing roads, but here we are. Given the discussions around that use of that space, it's worth having a look at that. But at the same time, I support this coming back as soon as possible to not lose the opportunity if we decide that is the right thing to do. We have been made aware of this issue previously, and it is generally a normal procedure actually for staff to do some design work and then come to us for approval for construction. And so I'm less concerned about the process. And I think that yes, it's is often not ideal that we're having to work to timeframes to get co-funding, but at the same time, staff put in a huge amount of work to ensure that we get co-funding because we can't do it, we can't fund these things alone, and sometimes it does mean that we have to do things quickly or in an order that isn't our preference. So I actually want to thank staff for proactiveness and in working so hard to try and secure co-funding for important projects. Thank you.
you. All right, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. There are none opposed. That's carried. Thank you. Right, I will move that we move into public excluded, seconded by, thank you, Councillor Donovan. Oh, yes?
My procedural point goes back to item 1 and apologies. This council resolved the partial absence of Councillor Milena, and an average person reading the records of this meeting would have interpreted that Councillor Milena participated. She has not participated in this meeting in any shape or form.
What's the normal process around that? How do you record the accuracy of members' attendance?
So that's why what you'd see in the open minutes at the top, it shows who was in attendance. It will actually list if anybody is there, partially or not, because she would not have attended any part of the open meeting. She will not have her name listed as in attendance.
Whether or not the committee has voted and accepted,
because we generally put up the apologies as we received them, which was partial due to sickness.
Great. All right. Thank you. So moved. Did we have a seconder for PX? Did I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Van Osten. All those in favour? Aye. There are none against. That's carried. Right. Couple of minutes. We'll move into PX.